High Point is a very low air team that scores a lot of points. And I think whenever you're trying to look at a team you don't know, obviously you're watching film and you're trying to pick up on strengths and weaknesses. But to get an overall picture of a team, you look at what teams have the ability to beat themselves and what teams don't. High Point is one of those teams that does not beat itself. They make you go out and beat them. So they're a High Point team. We're right around 18 and a half points that we score per set. They're right around 17 and a half. So they're not that far from us. And then they're also very low. They only give up about 7 points a set, that's just not that much. So we have to go out there and we have to score points against them because they're not going to give anything to us. That would explain why they're undefeated. That would explain why they ran roughshod over pretty much their whole conference. It's not an easy out for anybody. That's a team that a lot of programs wouldn't want to face in the first round because they're just not going to go out there and beat themselves. They're quick. They play great defense. They do a lot of little things right, but more importantly, they play the serve pass game well. They score points and they don't give up very many points. And that in itself is a recipe for strong success.
I don't know if you're familiar with their head coach, Ryan Meek, in his third season there. He's kind of helped turn that program around, having success there. What stands out about them when you watch them as from a coaching standpoint in their system? What stands out about them?
Well, certainly when you look at the team, I think it's got the hallmark of Ryan's pedigree and the places that he's been and the coaches he's worked under. I'm sure the same as, people look at UCF and say it's got a little bit of USC and a little bit of national team and a little bit of Michigan State, a little bit of Utah, a little bit of Bradley, from what we all bring to it. But certainly it's got his fingerprints all over it. And that's the discipline. That's the discipline, low air, don't beat yourself, take your opportunities to score. Really they're a lot like we are in a lot of ways. And he's done a fantastic job building that team and getting them to where they are right now. Like I said, going undefeated, it's not an easy task. I don't care who you are. I don't care what league you're in. That is, you can never take that for granted. So I congratulate him on a great year, and we'll look forward to sharing the court with them on Wednesday.
Is the preparation, how is it different, if it is different at all, with a team that you're not as familiar with? You don't, maybe play them usually like you do, for example, Florida State. I remember last year you even joked, we knew Florida State right from the get-go because of geography. You're probably familiar with some of the players from recruiting and things like that. More complicated to prepare, longer, or is it really not that big of a deal of an adjustment?
No, it's not really that big of a deal because volleyball is volleyball. And there's only so many things you can do with the sport because of the way the rules are. You can only have 3 front row players, and so they can only do so much, and you can only do so much with them. It's really all about seeing what their strengths are, being able to eye sequence what a team is doing, and making sure that you're looking at the right thing at the right time. Because a good coach is going to try to get you to say, oh, look over here. And then when you look over here, something's happening over here, sleight of hand. And that's certainly what a High Point team is capable of doing is getting you to look at something, but it's the wrong thing. So we're just going to have to be disciplined with our eye work. And we're going to have to make sure that we know what our assignments are. And we're going to have to be just, again, disciplined on where we're supposed to be when we're supposed to be there.
Facilities. You've been outspoken. Other coaches have been outspoken over the last handful of days about the facilities, the setup, everything. What can you tell us now? Because you've been outspoken, both positive and some things that you were concerned about, honestly. Sure. Which I think what's your thoughts?
I'm certainly not afraid to, call things out when I think there's issues, but I also think it's important when you do that you're given props and kudos to those that deserve it. Nobody's trying to have a bad tournament or a bad looking tournament. I think the one thing that fans in general need to remember, and this is a big deal, women's basketball brought up the concern that they only had 6 NCAA administrators running that tournament, whereas the men's basketball tournament had 12. The women had a rightful gripe. They had half of what the men have. Women's volleyball has one administrator. Kristen Fassbender is running this tournament by herself with the volleyball committee. And so while it's easy to throw darts at a dartboard and say, there's underperformance or there's lack of this and lack of that, I think the bigger question is, how in the world can a men's basketball tournament have 12 administrators, women's basketball have 6, we have 1. And not only do we have 1, she's also running ours. She's running the Frozen Flow 4 at the same time, and she's running 2 others. So, really, we have a quarter of an administrator. I saw Kristen when we were over testing, and she looks stressed. It's like the weight of the world is on her shoulders right now because she's trying to make everything look right. Plus, she has all of us coaches in our demands and the things that we want, and rightfully so. She understands. But she's got all that on her shoulders, and she's trying to run this in the Frozen Four at the same time. So again, as concerned as we were about an opportunity where we could get our games with commentators on TV, something that's never been done by the NCAA, but it's always been done by the local host. That's actually part of the bid package. And so I think it's a bit of a misstatement to say, well, we've never really done first and second round with commentators. True, but we've always done it in pods. And part of getting that bid was your ability to broadcast the first and second round. So that was that part. The second part was obviously the weight room, where there were no plans to really have a weight room. There was an area, there was space, there was really not great guidance on what the weight room facility could look like or how you use it. We're basically told to bring bands and light weights that you could use. Finally, they came out, they clarified that. They clarified that they're going to have a broadcast team on every match. So, retroactively, they're doing everything they can. I don't think this falls on the volleyball committee. I don't think this falls on Kristen, who I know has always worked so hard to make our championship better and better every year. I just think that they're put in a position where they're working retroactively based on what coaches are saying and complaining about. And, so I think it's really, it's important that we as coaches point out things that we think aren't right, that are big deals to our athletes, rehab areas, sports medicine facilities, things like that. I think we have to bring those up, but we have to have patience and grace to understand that right now, the NCAA has probably understaffed our championship, and the person that is doing it is trying to be the jack of all trades, and she's doing an amazing job.
I'm glad you said that, because obviously I've dealt with softball. It's the same boat. This is and I've talked to people. This is unique. There's so many sports going on right now. Soccer's going on. Basketball just concluded. You got all the spring sports about to have their championships. And you've never had to have a tournament be moved to one spot. I remember you've commented that, hosting the 2018 regional is not easy. And that was a 14 pod. I can't imagine trying to fill out a 48 teams in one location. It's unique, right? And I think it's more about communication than anything. And like you mentioned, it's not as easy as people, I think some in social media have made it out to be. It's not that I don't think there's an agenda here or any bias toward anti or anything like that, right?
I think there's very few cities that could pull this off. Omaha, thank goodness, is one of them. Indianapolis is one of them. But there's very few places that have the volunteer structure set up, that have the administrator structure set up, that have they have the College World Series here. They've had Olympic trials here. They know what it's like to hold a big event. The volleyball championships have been here several times, and the infrastructure in place to hold something like this, there's not very many places in the country. And you could tell they are working overtime to make it as comfortable as possible for all the participants, coaches, programs, to settle in and be able to play this championship. So again, props out to Omaha for what they're pulling off. I think if I was to change anything, you've got, as I'm talking to you, I'm looking out the window. I'm looking right at Creighton University across the highway from our hotel. Omaha Marion High School is a beautiful high school. There's other beautiful high schools in the area. University of Omaha is off in the other direction. Those are all great places that maybe we could have had groups of 8, and maybe we could have done it that way. But
spread it out a little bit, spread it out like basketball did. Basketball played in
and
different
who am I
buildings.
To second guess it? I mean, they did what they did for a reason. It's really easy for me to sit here in this chair and say could have done, should have done. You know, I just think it seems like they came up with this idea and they just ran with the idea, and that's okay. I mean, I'm not in their shoes, so I can't second guess. But there's a lot of great places that tournament could have been held here in Omaha. Plenty of facilities, probably could have been spread out a little bit, but it's neither here nor there. We're all here. Everybody's got a room. You know, we can study film, we can do our lifting, we can do our training, we can get prepared and have a great tournament.
Let's talk about McKenna Melville. Since we last spoke, she won the American Conference Player of the Year, second night to win the American Player of the Year. Delana Sarton did it in 2014. 8th UCF player all-time to win a Conference Player of the Year award in any conference. She's currently 27 digs away from being the 6th UCF night player to have over 1,000 kills and over 1,000 digs in her career. Joining a list includes Marian Metzkitz, who might be one of the more underappreciated UCF players of all time, played from 91 to 94, was part of those conference championships. Tyra Harper, Hall of Famer, obviously Olympian. Renata Menchikovo's in your also Hall of Famer. Aaron Campbell, who you coached, and Kia Bright, who you coached. That's the list that McKenna is on the cusp of joining. Just talk about her winning that Player of the Year and that list I told you, because 1,000 kills, 1,000 digs, that's a special group. Not many players can pull that off.
Well, you see it in other programs. Sometime in their senior year, if they were a 4-year starter, they're knocking on the door of that 1,000 club. McKenna finished her sophomore, and she's into a truncated junior season, and she's knocking on the door of that. So I think that says something for her. But, I guarantee you when she's sitting in front of this camera talking to you, she's going to talk a lot more about her teammates than she is herself, because it's her teammates that allows her to do all these great things that she's been able to do. And I'm sure she's had a great experience and a great ride here, but it's because of the people that are all around her that are setting her up for that success. It's because of the coaches that are working with her that have helped her set up, for that success. So, she's going to be really happy and excited about being one of those volleyball players that's going to, probably end up in the rafters here someday, maybe even more. But she's going to be the first to tell you it's got a lot more to do than with just her. And, obviously she means a lot to this program, but it takes a lot of people just to help her be who she is.
When I spoke to her last, she said she changed her major. She wants to get into coaching the high school level. Obviously, her mom's a Hall of Fame coach at Minnesota. But do you see when you coach her and you see her, do you see some of that kind of instincts that, hey, she could be a coach down the road that maybe she got from her mom and obviously her knowledge of the sport? Do you see some of that when you see her playing or when you're communicating with her?
Eric, I've seen it since she's a sophomore in high school. Watching her play on her 16 and under team, coaching and saying a little tidbits of information to her teammates that a coach would say. All right, now we've got this angle, you've got this, make sure you're watching out for that. Those are things that we say from the bench. She's been doing that since I remember watching her play for the first time. She still continues to do that. She's still the person on the bus. Okay, ready, make sure you have IDs ready before I can get up and say, hey, make sure you have your IDs ready. It's already ingrained in her DNA to have structure, organization, want to know what's going on, making sure that everybody's on the same page. And I'll tell you, there's not a single player in the program that is studying the scouting report more, sitting with coaches, watching video of herself and of other teams. It's amazing how much preparation she does, not only on her own game, but on her opponents. It's second to none, actually. How much preparation, how much discussion she wants to have with the coaches about, well, what if we do this? Or what if we try this? Or should we put this in? Goodness, it's like having a quarterback, in the offensive game planning room saying, hey, I think this is going to work. I think this is Peyton Manning, stuff. This is John Elway stuff. This is stuff that coaches sit back and just let the quarterback dictate what's going to happen on the field. Now, she doesn't quite have that much of a green light, but man, it's not far off because, she really does understand the game. She understands the nuance of the game. She understands the little components of the game. She understands how you free up certain players. She understands court coverages. She understands blocking schemes. She understands that when a ball is here, a player is here, the only thing that she can do is this. That's really high level stuff. I mean, that's stuff you see in professionals that are 26, 27, 28 years old. She's known it for a long time. And, it's got a lot to do with growing up in the gym with a mom who's a great volleyball mind. But it's really her effort. It's her intensity. It's her commitment to preparation that has put her in that position.
Last question. What's going to be the keys for your team to be successful here and against High Point and, hopefully make a deep run here in this tournament? Yeah,
well, I'll tell you what, we're not even talking about anything but High Point. The keys to this are really, it's not different than any other tournament match. You get yourself under control. You get as much of your routine down as possible. We've been doing the same routine for, I don't know how many matches we played this year, but it's the same routine, and it's going to be the same routine. Routine causes comfort. Sometimes you hate routine because it's mundane, but the reason why you have routine is so when you're in a situation like this, you're just going through your routine. It's no different. Your schedule is your schedule no matter what. So we're going to be on the same schedule we've always been on. The next key, I think, is going to be how do we settle into the environment? How quickly can we settle into the serve pass game? Because I think both teams really depend on the serve pass game to then exert their will in other areas of the game. I think we have to go out, we have to be physical, we have to keep them off balance because, like I said, they score a lot of points. So it's going to be a shootout type of game. How can we slow them down enough? They're probably not going to have a lot of errors, but how do we slow them down so they can't score as many points as they normally score? And that's going to have to come from our serve and then from how we attack them, where we're just keeping them off balance. Are we going to be able to stop them? Probably not. We'll do our best, but really for us, it's how do we find a way to exert our will as early as we can. Routine, settling down, and then going out and using what works best for you, which for us is our serve block game.
Yeah, it's a really cool award. It really shows our conference and kind of that UCF is striving to be the best at that conference every single year. So to be even up for that award is huge because it comes from how your team is performing. So I'm just really thankful that I'm able to be considered for it because there are a whole bunch of great athletes in the American Conference that we have here. But to get the award, I think, is from my teammates and the people around me, because without them, I would not have been up for the award and I would not have had the success I do.
What's it like to be in Omaha for this NCAA tournament? You're from Minnesota. I don't know. I'm sure you've probably crossed paths with Omaha at some point with all either tournaments and all that. It's a volleyball capital of the world, if you will. What's it like to be back in Omaha?
Yeah, we actually played here all the time for all of our club tournaments every single year since I was 14. So we're playing in the same venues and everything. So it's kind of cool to be back in your home, or not your home state, but in your stomping grounds. You've been here before. So it is a different experience, but it's really cool to see other teams walk around, kind of catch familiar faces here and there. But super cool experience. So far, so good. Smooth sailing. So can't complain.
Do you have any favorite memories? I mean, for those that have never been to Omaha for volleyball, what's it like to be at a volleyball tournament of any level in Omaha?
Yeah, it's crazy. There's over 100 teams here normally for the Omaha weekends that we have. Northern Lights normally brings down about 50 teams in general just for them. So it's pure chaos. And I think that's what the volleyball world is chaos, organized chaos. So just to be able to kind of get that atmosphere back and understand that it is going to be chaotic, but just to kind of go through your childhood a little bit more is kind of fun.
What's it like now as you settle in here? You're going to face High Point. I'm sure you watch tape. What stands out here as you all get prepared for it here for another NCAA tournament?
Yeah, we've watched film a little bit just on our own throughout this week. So we know some of their key players and everything like that. But they're a great team. They're their offense is very well balanced. just as well as any team. But so we just look to try and find their weakest spots and go after that and execute that as well as we can. So I'm sure Brian and Todd and Jenny will have a little bit more of how we can attack them. I necessarily just watch kind of their tendencies and stuff like that, where they may go and why they do it. So I kind of know what to say and what to execute for my standing. How do they defend me, stuff like that. So that's what I go in looking for. But overall, I think we can do this. We just have to play within ourselves and play hard, and we'll be okay.
It's a cool experience for you here. You were part of the hosting the NCAA Tournament 18. You were in Gainesville in 19, now in Omaha in 21. 3 different experiences there. Not a lot of student athletes can say that. That's what is it like to kind of experience these different experiences here at the NCAA Tournament?
Mm-hmm. It's way different. Every single year is a little bit different. My freshman year, I don't think we knew what to expect. And that's why we fell short, is because we didn't understand the whole tournament atmosphere. Playing in the AAC conference tournament really helped us the following year because we knew what the excitement and what the energy was all about. So that's why we could go to FSU and kind of put the pedal to the metal when we played them. But again, this year is kind of the same thing. So with the more experienced people who have been here before, it helps calm people down. It helps people understand that it is do or die. People trying to get everyone on the same path to move forward in a stressful situation is definitely difficult to do in any aspect as well as sports. So just to kind of get everyone to understand that there is going to be stress and there is going to be pressure, but how do we take that pressure and move forward with it, I think is something big. And we've done a great job this past week preparing for that. So.
Does being, you and the leaders on the team have been to the NCAA tournament before. Does that help in this situation calm everybody down? Or is there always nerves before a big match? Is that just natural?
I think nerves are good. I think if you don't have nerves, something's wrong with you. So I think.
So you like the nerves?
I do. I used to have a little bit too much, but now I've kind of dialed it down. But I think it's good to go out there and have a little bit of butterflies in your stomach, a little pit in your stomach, just because it means that you're going to do something that you're uncomfortable with. And if you're uncomfortable with it, it means you're growing and it means you're learning, and it means you're learning with the people around you. So every team we go out and play coming up here is somebody that we have to learn and try and beat. I always say that volleyball is a mental game. So how are we going to take what we know or what we think we know and go out there and beat them? So that's how we have to change our pieces, move our pieces, and everything like that. So it is a mental game. The nerves do come as we start, but they normally shake up about 5 or 6 points in. So.
For those that we spoke about this last time we spoke, but those may not be aware, your mom's a Hall of Fame coach, volleyball coach in Minnesota. You grew up in this sport, basically.
Yep.
What's it like to grow up in a sport and have a mom who was a coach in volleyball and a Hall of Fame coach in the state of Minnesota?
Yeah, I think it just shows that volleyball is my life. It has been my life. It's been a part of me my whole entire life, and I don't plan on giving it up anytime soon, if it's playing or coaching or anything like that. But again, it's not necessarily stepping on the court for those 3 hours that you're there, but it's the friendships that you make, the people that are around you, the drive that it's pushing you to be every day. And I honestly think that it is a great way to be uncomfortable and a great way for learning experiences to come up. So I'm glad I was growing up in that program. I've been with volleyball my whole life, and it's pushed me every day to be uncomfortable and to become a natural leader and to be somebody who's okay with confrontation or okay with drive and everything like that. So while volleyball is my life, I think it's the person I am. It's why I am the person I am. It's why my family is the way we are. Very driven people. So I think volleyball is the sport itself, but it's also a lifestyle and how you choose to live it as well.
Do you remember as a fan growing up watching the NCAA tournament volleyball, the fight national championships, or any players in specific that really kind of inspired you? I mean, obviously your family inspired you, but from just watching from the outside, like, man, I want to be a part of that one day.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of just the Big Ten and the big programs like that. So we would always watch like the Final Four and the Sweet 16s and stuff like that. And I just love the way how physical everyone played when you got into that level. So to go out here and kind of be maybe a role model to a few people, I think is pretty cool and pretty special. But yeah, some of those big dogs. I've always been a fan of the Gophers because of that, my home state. So that was the team that I watched growing up. That was the team that we just always had on TV, not because it was just, just click on
Right.
Fox Sports North or whatever. So it's just always there for us. But just to be able to hear volleyball around my house the whole time and then watch it as well, it really brings like everything together and shows that it's a bigger than just my house. It is other people's lives as well.
It's funny you bring that up because I remember watching the selection show, and part of me was thinking, I wonder if they're going to pair you guys with like Minnesota, in the bracket, because, you're from the state. What a storyline that would be. UCF actually played Minnesota many years ago in the late 90s in the NCAA tournament. What was going through your mind as you were watching the selection show? Did you have some thoughts there? Like, man, wouldn't that be something if I were playing that team or something like that? Or what was going through your mind?
I just wanted our name to pop up on the screen. It took a long time for our name to finally come up. That's for sure. So it's like, come on. But honestly, I didn't care who we played or where we were going. But I think the path that we have right now, we can be very successful. And I'm really happy of where we got placed. I'm very confident in where we got placed, and I'm hoping that it comes out in our favor.
We talked last time. You changed your major. You're gonna go into coaching in high school. Coach Todd just said that he's known that you were gonna coach since he was recruiting you as a sophomore, or whenever very free guys got to know each other. Does that help you in preparation? Being with your mom being the coach, does that kind of help you as you prepare and you help the team prepare from that mindset, knowing both the player side, but also you're familiar with the coaching side of things, having been exposed to it?
Oh, I love that piece. I think it's very interesting. It's very, it shows me a lot of how I would do things, how I would approach something, or, oh, I really like this about practice, or this is very interesting to me. So I don't necessarily look at it as like a player standpoint of, oh, I want to get this point, this point, this point. I look at it as, oh, they're doing this because we need to work on the defensive side of our game, or they're doing this because we really need to start using our middles or something like that. So I like using the coaching aspect to help my game right now, and then it will help me down the road as well.
That's pretty wild. What's the part you enjoy the most as you? It sounds like you really thrive and enjoy the preparation and just watching and studying. You're a student of the game, aren't you?
Yes, I love practice. I know a lot of student athletes are like, oh, I have to go to practice again. I love practice. It's the best part of my day. Gets me out of the house, gets me to do some things that are uncomfortable for me, uncomfortable for my teammates. But yeah, I love learning the whys behind things. A lot of my coaches will say I am very stubborn because I think my whys might be different than their whys. But I do love learning the reasoning behind things, or why we are doing it the way we are. So I'm sure it bugs the coaches sometimes because I'm always asking the why. Why do you want to do it like this? But they're really good at responding to me, really helping me understand it so that we can execute at the highest potential.
I want to ask you about two of your teammates. Anne-Marie Watson was first team all-conference. Narissa Moravec was second team all-conference. What makes them so valuable to this team?
Yeah, I think consistency is key. I talk about it all the time at practice, like stay consistent. But they're very consistent throughout day in, day out. Our middles do a great job of putting up a great block. They might not be hitting for high numbers or high kills all the time, but they're always there. They're always present. They always do their job effectively. And Anne-Marie Watson puts the ball down when we need her to. She puts up a huge block, which is great to have in the back row, really easy to see, really easy to move. So all of them together is a great bonus for me. Makes my job a little bit easier, makes people around them a little bit easier. And that's the name of the game, is how can I help the next person? So they do a great job of helping that next person.
I know you're not into stats and all this stuff, but I'm going to tell you this anyway. You're 27 digs away from 1,000 digs and being the 6th UCF player to have over 1,000 kills and over 1,000 digs in a career, joining the likes of Tyra Harper, who's an Olympian Hall of Famer, UCF Hall of Famer Renata Menchikova, Miriam Mitzkeff, Kia Bright, and Erin Campbell, who you know well. And she's talked to me about how that just shows, for those that don't follow the sport closely, what a great, well-rounded player you are. There's going to be a lot of people that watch you this week that haven't watched you play. Just talk about, I know the stats don't mean nothing, but that stat's a unique stat. Not many players can pull that off, that where you might be pulling off here soon.
Yeah, it's a cool one. So hopefully I get it this year, because that means I'm not probably going to get 27 digs in one game. So hopefully I'll get it in 2 or 3. But that is the goal, is to get to those next rounds. So that's a goal for me then, is to get to those next rounds to get those 1,000. But again, not really what I'm focused on. We're focused on High Point right now, what we can do to get better, what we can do to win. The accolades come because we're so focused. I think my team and my coaches do a great job of keeping us going straight, and then the accolades kind of pile on the train as we go. So as long as we can stay consistent, I think the accolades for everyone kind of keeps coming around, and that's what makes our team so special.
But it does speak that you're such a great round player. You're not a one-dimensional player.
Yeah.
You could do a lot of things on the court. Was that something that you worked on? I mean, just is that natural? Like, how much of that is work ethic? How much of that is just natural ability?
I would think it's a learned ability, only because I started as a setter and then I moved to libero for most of my club season. And then as the last 2 years, as I became an outside hitter. But that gives me 3 different options to look at the game differently. And I think that's something really important. I wish that I could have done middle. I wish I could have done right side. I wish I could have done all different positions, just to kind of get that aspect of the game and the understanding of why. So I think all little kids growing up should try out all these positions, not necessarily to find your favorite one, but to give you a different aspect of the game, give you a different insight of why things are happening the way they are. Why is this hitter hitting here? It's probably because the libero doesn't move very well that way, or something like that. Or why should the setter set the outside? It's because there's no block on the right side. Things like that is something that I've learned throughout the years. And it's helped me be a leader on the court. It's helped me hit smarter. It's helped me dig where they're going to be, stuff like that. So I think growing up again in that volleyball community has really helped me understand the game more, understand how to be a 6 rotation player. And I think that's really huge.
That's right. When you were told you're moving to outside hitter, what was your reaction?
I actually went to right side first because I was taller, and I was like, okay, sure, whatever. My mom was the one that was like, let's do it, because we needed to for high school, because high school, you're just, whoever's there is who you're playing with. But that's what I did. And then I went back into the libero as club season started. And then over time, I went to the outside for both club and high school. But again, it's another game. It's another chess piece for me. So I really appreciated just the understanding of why, and it's another challenge. I'm always trying to find a new challenge in life, with that being friendships, or with that being an activity to do, but just another challenge to put out to me, I think, is something huge.
That's fantastic. I didn't realize that. You're right, because playing all these different positions, you can relate to what any player on the court is the responsibility and their thinking.
Yeah. So like with the setters, like it's really big. I can see holes that they might not be able to see because I'm in maybe middle back or left back. And that's something that they can't see at the time, but I understand the whys. Why would that be a good idea? I'm sure it makes them upset a little bit when I see it and they don't. And it also, I ask more questions probably in film because of it. I like to understand if people are understanding the same way I am. But again, yeah, it does help. It helps me understand why people are frustrated. It helps me understand why they need to do it the certain way, stuff like that.
No, it's fantastic. Coach Dagenais gave you an ultimate compliment, compared you to like a Peyton Manning type in football, who kind of knew what every player on the field's responsibilities was and helping run the offense. He kind of compared you to him, which is a huge compliment to say that. But you do; it's very accurate. You know everybody in the court, what's going on. You've been in those shoes, and you can kind of adapt based on that. It's pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
That be able to pull that off. Last question. As you get before the match, what's the message you'll tell your teammates and your players, especially the ones that maybe haven't been through this, against High Point, and get ready to be successful?
I just say stay confident, stay humble, stay level-headed. I think if you ride too high, you're going to hit too low at some point. So if we can stay in that middle ground and just go as far as we can, as consistently as we can, is the goal. Go out there, put your energy forward, and rely on your teammates. Don't rely on one kill or one block or one serve to win us this game. It's going to be 75 points, hopefully only, of grit and grind to get us through to the next game. But we do have to look at each point. So what can I do in that next point to get this ball over on the other side and get it down? And I think that's what we need as a team right now, is what can I do? What can they do? What can each person do to get this team rolling in the way we need it to roll?